What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Down South Packers podcast with me, your host, Anthony Boyd. Today, I'm just going to be going over some of the things that have happened since the season had ended for the Green Bay Packers after losing that tragic game to the Bears. Looking at Matt Lafleur, Russ Ball, Brian Gutekunst got extensions a couple days ago. Going to talk about them and why I believe the extensions were warranted, and also just going to look at the Jonathan Gannon hire a little bit and see why there's room for optimism with that hire. But first, I want to thank you guys for tuning in, listening to the podcast. I appreciate you guys who do listen to it, and hopefully we continue to grow. I need to be more consistent. I know, stay on top of me. My boy Devin over at Down South Bills is very good at letting me know that I'm not consistent enough, but I will be moving forward. I also want to say that South Carolina got some Green Bay, Wisconsin snow, which is very abnormal. We don't ever get snow like that. And I'm pretty sure we had almost a foot of snow in some areas. So that was fun to go out and play in. Build snowmen. I've never done that in my lifetime, not to that degree, having that much snow. So that was kind of cool to see. But I'm going to get into the podcast now. I'm going to talk about Matt Lafleur. Matt Lafleur got an extension. A lot of people were hard after that Bears game and said, do not give Matt Lafleur an extension. I was one of those people because I was upset with the Bears' loss. Obviously, you don't want to lose to a division opponent in the playoffs in the way that we lost, losing a comeback to them and Ben Johnson, who's insufferable. But losing that game, you hate to lose a game to a division opponent, and you'd seen those collapses before Matt LaFleur's tenure, and with that, you would think, I think it's time to get him out of here. But upon resting on it a little bit and seeing how other things shook out with other teams, seeing what other openings opened up, what coaches got fired, I don't think the Packers had another decision or another coach they could have brought in and allowed to be head coach. I think keeping Matt LaFleur was the right choice in that moment. I mean, he's been 76-40-1 in the regular season during his time as the head coach of the Packers, and he's 2-5 in the postseason, which a lot of people will gripe about and say that he doesn't win enough, especially with some of those teams that got, first round buys, those Aaron Rodgers teams that would seem like they were ready to go win a Super Bowl, but somebody like Joe Barry might slow you down. That's neither here nor there. Extending LaFleur was the right decision. After I calmed down, I realized that this guy has done a lot for this team. He took a 7 seed team on Jordan's first year starting, brought them into Dallas, and they went and just destroyed the Cowboys on the road. I mean, you're looking at that. That's a huge positive. You have a first year quarterback who's following behind one of the greatest of all time. I believe the greatest thrower of the football ever in Aaron Rodgers. And he comes in and wins a playoff game in his first year. After that, the beginning of that season, if you remember, Jordan started off rough. That year was tough. Jordan did not look good early on in the season. Then towards the back half of the year, he really turned it on. As we kind of see, that's a Jordan Love thing. He plays the second half of the season really, really well. But in that first year, they went and won a huge playoff game. I mean, if you want to look too at Malik Willis, that's another reason why I can point to and say Matt's a great coach, and I don't know many coaches who can do what he's done. Matt obviously had Malik Willis come in. Willis comes in as a castaway from the Titans, and now he'll probably end up being a quarterback that makes 25 plus mil and has a chance at starting next year, especially with this quarterback class coming out of college being a little weak. Willis will go on and make money, and we've seen he's a bona fide solid option at quarterback. He came in, obviously, last year a few times. Came in and beat the Colts last year, if I remember right. I believe, I can't remember. I don't want to say wrong. I can't remember the other game that he played last year. But this past season, obviously came in and stepped in when Jordan was hurt as well. Played well in the second Bears game when Jordan went out. We were thinking, hey, maybe we need some people. I wasn't thinking that. I know Jordan's the answer, but hey, this guy's really good at football as well, and that's good. That was good to have on the team. But now we see that Malik's probably going to leave and go make good money elsewhere, and the Packers will pick up a 7th-round quarterback to be the backup in the future. But again, LaFleur developed him into that because nobody thought Malik Willis would be that. He got tossed to the side for Will Levis, and we know how good Will Levis is. So Malik Willis is good now. That's obviously something that Jordan worked on. I mean, not Jordan, but LaFleur worked on. And if you look at this year, this team was rolling before injuries really started to ruin the team. And I know that's a cop-out answer. Everyone in the NFL goes through injuries. But if you're looking at the Packers' injuries and what they had to try to work through, it's abnormal. It wasn't. I mean, the injuries that you had, obviously Tuck went out first. I mean, if you want to go before that, I'm pretty sure Elton Jenkins went out before him. And you can say Elton isn't that good, but losing a starting center in the NFL, you just don't want to do that. You know, you kind of want offensive line's not a position most teams are very deep at, so you kind of want to keep the guys that you plan on starting there, especially as center. So when Elton went down, and then Tucker goes down, and then you see obviously Micah go down against the Broncos, the injuries piled up. Tucker was looking like the NFL's number one tight end before he got hurt. Obviously, Micah is who Micah is, being a special talent. Got hurt on a play trying to chase down Bo Nix. He's the only person on that defensive line who showed heart, that much heart, I should say, throughout the course of the season, and his motor is extremely high. So when he went down, him being the player that he is, those are two huge pieces by themselves. And then we're looking at just bad play on the defensive side of the ball at times from cornerbacks. I'm not going to single out people, but I don't know if all that's Matt Lafleur's issue. I think players need to have some kind of pride about themselves, and Matt can coach these guys up as good as he can. But if these guys don't have any pride for themselves, then I mean he can't really do much more outside of that. I think it's also good because you get to keep continuity with Jordan. Jordan's obviously been on a very upward trend throughout his career. This year, especially, you see it. He seems like he took a big leap forward. Turnovers have been an issue for Jordan Love. I don't believe that. I think he has had some boneheaded interceptions. Now, with that being said, um, when he throws them, they look very bad. I think that's why most people think of Jordan Love as a turnover machine. But if you actually watch Packers games, you realize Jordan Love's not a turnover machine at all. It's just when he throws them, they are some of the craziest things you've ever seen in your life, like the divisional round game against the Niners, where after the year after they beat the Cow after they beat the Cowboys, not the year after, but the game after they beat the Cowboys, he threw the cross body. Pretty sure it was first or second down, cross his body for no reason. The Packers had timeouts, had plenty of time, and he forced it. Even that game, you could criticize the floor for losing that one, but kickers should make kicks. And since Mason Crosby's been gone, the Packers kickers have absolutely sunk. So that's another subject for another time. People will probably criticize Matt for that with his special teams coordinator, Rich Bisaccia, who somehow they have penalties almost, well, not almost every game, actually. There's an Andy Herman tweet guaranteed to come out that says the fight in Rich Bisaccia. So that's neither here nor there. You can criticize Matt about that. And I'm fine with it. Get another special teams coordinator. I know he has relationships, a lot of people in that building, especially Josh Jacobs when he was interim over in Vegas. But whatever. Do something with Rich Bisaccia. Okay. But back to Jordan. He's not a turnover machine. He's obviously been a lot better since he's been getting more comfortable in this Matt LaFleur system and starting more, just playing football. I think that's the right move. Just keep him with Matt. Watch them grow together. Matt's going to grow as a play caller. I don't think there's any reason to believe Jordan Love's not going to continue this upward trend that he's had all year. I mean, he had throughout the year and throughout his career so far up until this point. That's the right move. Keep Matt LaFleur. There's not many other options. Do you want a John Harbaugh who's way older and cannot really connect with the team this young? I don't think you really want that. I don't know what other coaching candidates you want to bring to Green Bay outside of. I really don't know. I don't think and Mike Tomlin said he was taking a year off, so you're taking a step backwards, in my opinion, with any other coach that you would have taken. And if Matt LaFleur would have been fired, he would have been the number one coach in the coaching cycle because of how good of a head coach he is. He hasn't struggled much. He's been the best, coach in the NFC essentially since, and by record, gotta say by record, since he's been head coach of the Packers in 2019. You could say I think Sean McVay is probably slightly a better coach. Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion, he's kind of the guy that they're Shanahan disciples, but Big Shanahan really is disciples, and you could argue Shanahan's better than him. He's been to a Super Bowl. I don't know. Shanahan does a great job. Great job. The 49ers, with how bad that team was beat up this year, did a great job. I don't know. That's one. But McVay is the only one I could see that's like head and shoulders above Matt LaFleur. So I'm okay with keeping Matt LaFleur. I think he'll continue to grow. Obviously, with this extension, Brian Gutekunst also got an extension. A lot of people were complaining about that. I don't know why. I guess you're looking at his early draft classes. But if you're really looking at the draft classes outside of, post, if you're not going to include George's class, but like 2022 and on, I think he's had a great run of drafts. And a lot of teams, a lot of players have come in and made impacts for this team. So I think he also took the he had the initiative and the gut sack to take a Jordan Love when you have Aaron Rodgers on the team, and you know that's probably going to piss him off as a person. That's just kind of how Aaron Rodgers is. He will get upset about that, but you still decided to take Jordan Love in the first round with a lot of people who didn't think Jordan Love was a first round quarterback. So you take that chance, get Jordan Love. You've drafted players pre 2022 like Love, Jair Alexander, who it's unfortunate the injuries got to Jair. Jair's one of my favorite Packers of all time. I have his jersey. He's from Charlotte, so he's right up the road from me, 30 minutes away. I love Jair. Loved him at Louisville, so I was happy when the Packers drafted him. And then, although not recently, you can talk crap about the guy, but Rashawn Gary before that 2022 class, Rashawn Gary pre-injury was great, and um, it's kind of sad. You see him next to a Micah, and Micah is a completely different specimen next to Rashawn Gary right now. But those are three great draft picks, like all pro level, Pro Bowl with for whatever that's worth nowadays type of players. Gutekunst deserves an extension. These last few draft classes have been excellent, in my opinion. I mean, he got Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Devontae Wyatt, and Quay Walker in the same draft class. Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs, Zach Tom, Devontae Wyatt, and Quay Walker. That is a rock star draft class. And obviously, we see that Romeo's probably going to walk now just with financial things. And you draft Matthew Golden for that reason. But 2023, he got LVN, Musgrave, Jaden Reed, Tucker Craft, Dontavian Wicks. Another great draft class. 2024, you got Edgerrin Cooper, Bullard, Evan Williams in the fourth round. Evan Williams is an all-pro level type of guy. Like, Evan Williams is a special, special talent. If you watch the film, watch how he tackles. He's really special. We're going to get a little bit on why I'm super high on Bullard, Williams, McKinney going forward in the future. Then in 2025, this class is still relatively fresh. We don't know what they're going to do for the team, but you kind of started to see signs for some of these guys. Matthew Golden, Anthony Belton, Savion Williams, and Barron Sorrell. Four guys who I think will make impacts on this team moving forward in the future. He seems to be finding his footing in terms of drafts. These draft classes look a lot better than they did early on. I'm happy with what Gutekunst has done up until this point. He doesn't seem to hold on to draft picks for his pride. He's more willing to move on than a lot of GMs are. They'll kind of stick to their guns, i.e., somebody in Indianapolis like not Shane Ballard, Chris Ballard, who will hold on to draft picks because he thinks they're good. They're not great, and that team just continues to stink. I mean, who would you rather have a Ballard than a Brian Gutekunst? No, you would not. You'd much rather love to have Brian Gutekunst in that situation. And then if we really look post Micah Parsons Micah Parsons trade, he got Micah Parsons for the same price that the Colts paid for Sauce Gardner. That's a steal. Sauce Gardner, as great as a player as he is, in my opinion, watching this film, he's super handsy, has a lot of issues with penalties. I mean, I'd much rather have the pass rusher like Micah than Sauce Gardner, who is, in my opinion, he's good. He has good size and he's a pretty good corner, but I don't know if he's a difference maker like Micah Parsons is, in all honesty. I think Gutekunst went out and made that splash trade. Who saw that happen in him going to the Packers? I mean, if you're on Packers Twitter and you're following the Jets and stuff, not the literal Jets, but the planes, the flight logs and stuff, you saw that coming. But outside of that, nobody saw the Packers going to make an aggressive trade for Micah Parsons. So that was a huge, huge reason for me to support Brian Gutekunst even more. And lastly, the last thing I'm going to get into on the pod, I'm losing some sunlight behind me. I thought I had a little more sunlight in the day. I'm a dark brother. I can't be out here in the dark. Jonathan Gannon has hired his DC here recently. Huge addition, after losing Jeff Hafley. Thank you, Jeff Hafley, for your contributions to the Packers. Really appreciated you and the fire that you had for that defense. You gave us a lot of hope as Packers fans following Joe Barry. I can't even remember. Why am I forget my guy's name? Anywho, you gave us a lot of hope. Thank you, Jeff Hafley. Really appreciate you. Barry, I just don't want to think about Barry. But thank you, Jeff Hafley, for giving us hope. This Jonathan Gannon hire, he did not call plays in Arizona, as a lot of people have reported. That wasn't his thing. Just out of pure curiosity, I went back to look at the Eagles teams that he had previously coached and was coordinator for, just to see if I could find some kind of idea of what that, his style is. I saw that Justice Mosqueda, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, reported that he likes to drop a lot of DNs in coverage. And I watched the Eagles 2022 game, I guess 2023 playoffs game against the Giants, and I saw Hassan Reddick dropping into coverage. I saw uh, Josh Sweat dropping into coverage, and I saw Robert Quinn dropping into coverage all in that game. So that is a thing that he likes to do. Apparently, hopefully, I don't see Micah dropping into coverage much. I want Micah to rush passers. If he wants to drop someone else, that's fine. I just don't want to see the Preston Smith on uh, Justin Jefferson type of things. Hopefully, I don't want to see any of those. But you look at some of the players who played in his system; they played a lot better under his system than they did anywhere else in their careers. Hassan Reddick had the best year of his career. He was second team All Pro, I believe, underneath Jonathan Gannon's defense. I think he or third in the NFL maybe in sacks with 16 or so sacks, I believe. Um, he had a great year under him. If you still want to start to look at other D linemen who were also on that same team in 2023, you had Javon Hargrave, Brandon Graham, and there's one other. Sweat. I think Josh Sweat might have also had, all three of those guys had 11 sacks in that season underneath the 16 that Hassan Reddick had. So you had four guys with 10 plus sacks. And no disrespect to any of those guys, but what are they doing now? I think is a good question if you want to look back at it. They played well under the system. That's what gives me optimism for this defensive line. The Packers D line is pretty young. You have Micah, but outside of that, you have LVN, who you see flashes at times of him playing really good football, and then he seems to fall off. So hopefully he can get some continuity under this Gannon system. Gannon knows how to rush the passer. I saw him take Xavier Thomas out of Clemson and have him looking like a pretty good NFL player, which I never saw coming because Xavier Thomas was a fifth or sixth year senior at Clemson, had injuries he battled with, but he turned him into an NFL player that I never saw coming. Obviously, being a guy from South Carolina, I watched Clemson football, went to games with Xavier Thomas playing, and I never saw that player coming like playing it out in the NFL. So Gannon turned him around. If you look at safety play too, just with who he had at safety in Philly in particular, I mean, he had Marcus Epps playing great football, and Buda Baker is Buda Baker out in Phoenix in Arizona, but Buda Baker also played really good football underneath this Jonathan Gannon style of team. So that excites me about the back end. Seeing Evan Williams take a huge step, seeing Javon Bullard take a huge step forward, and obviously Xavier McKinney's an all-pro level guy. He'll probably take a huge step forward as well. I think that Packers trio should improve. If you want to look at the corners, James Bradbury was great in that Eagles Super Bowl run against the Chiefs, and who knew James Bradbury was going to be that good? I think Bradbury was all-pro as well that year. You just look at players that played underneath him. He kind of had them playing above their what you would expect them to play, and that excites me. Maybe even about the Packers corners. Maybe Keyshawn Nix can have a redemption story next year. Probably not Karen Valentine, but Nate Hobbs, someone else that they bring in, a young guy maybe, hopefully in the draft. Going to look more into that in the future. I saw they just hosted, was it Malik? Is it Malik Mustafa for out of Texas? They hosted him at a private interview with the Seahawks at the Senior Bowl. So hopefully he can help some of these guys take a huge step forward. I'd be excited to see that, see what he can do helping this Green Bay team improve. I'm excited about the Jonathan Gannon hire. I'm going to get out of here now. I was going to go through some final thoughts. Don't really have many anyways, but getting kind of dark in here in the office, and I can't reach the light. So super thankful for you guys listening to the podcast. I will be back with the joint podcast hopefully later this week with Devin Long with Down South Bills. We're going to ask each other some questions about our team's off seasons, and we're going to also look ahead to the Super Bowl, give Super Bowl predictions. Not my team in particular playing, but we can still talk about the Super Bowl a little bit and what our thoughts are. Super thankful for you guys listening. Go ahead, if you're on YouTube, drop a subscribe, comment underneath what you're excited for with this Packers team, what you think about the Packers. If you hate the Packers, let me know in the comments. Like the video. If you're on any podcast listening apps, I appreciate you doing that. Go ahead and follow on all those that this will be posted to. Again, I appreciate you all listening. Thank you all, and go Pack Go.